Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with more revenge stories. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one starts like this. This was petty revenge executed on me by a friend, executed flawlessly. At some point back in the late 90s, early 2000s, my friends and I started trolling each other by sending each other links to what were supposed to be legit pictures, normally of each other hanging out, something cool, etc., but were actually pictures of planned stands. It got so bad that we started refusing to click links sent around and coined the phrase "don't plant stand me." Flares up and down for several years as my friends move away from New York City and around the country, but continue to share pictures and funny links, etc. We would also keep track of who had gotten who most recently, and I don't even remember what I had done, but I'd plant standed one of them particularly bad. Fast forward about a year, I am getting married, everyone is invited, including this friend who is going to stay at my place during the wedding. She drives up in a rental and asks me to help bring her bags in. I am so excited to see her, I rush out and grab a couple and carry them into the guest room and get her all set up. It's a great wedding and my wife and I head off to our honeymoon for a week, saying goodbye to everyone before we go. When I get back to my house, another week or so goes by before I have to get something from the closet in the guest room. And that is when I find it. A huge wrought iron plant stand smacked in the middle of the room. This friend of mine found, bought, disassembled, flew to another country, reassembled and left a plant stand in my guest room, and I helped carry it into my own house. Needless to say, she won. We don't plant stand anymore, there's no point. And the next one, my little brother and his girlfriend came to stay at my house for the weekend, and the girlfriend was super self-centered and obnoxious. When they left, she forgot her clothes and toiletries because she left them sprawled all over my bathroom. About a week later, she and my brother moved into an apartment together. After he paid for the moving truck, deposit and utilities, she cheated on him with her ex and kicked him out of the apartment. This left him broke, homeless and heartbroken. In the days after the breakup, she kept calling and emailing him several times per day, demanding that he ask me to ship her clothes and toiletries back to her. I mean, it is really important, it's my North Face. My brother called and pleaded with me to ship them to her so she would stop having a reason to contact him. Being the loving sister that I am, I gathered up the really important North Face sweatshirts, shorts, underwear, shampoo, conditioner, soap and razor. I folded everything nicely. I then wrote a nice note apologizing for taking so long to mail them to her and let her know that I hope all is well. The note was written in permanent marker and the paper happened to be resting on the really important North Face when I wrote it. Unfortunately, the ink bled straight through the paper and onto the shirt. Also unfortunately, the shampoo, soap and conditioner caps were not tightly secured on their bottles and the contents leaked out all over the clothes, further spreading the ink. The most unfortunate result though was that her razor did not have any sort of protective cap or container and left little slashes all over the front of the really important North Face. She received the package and my brother never heard from her again. And the next one, get off my damn land. Hello, we have had issues with trespassers in our land and my friend said I should post how I have dealt with them years prior. Some background, I live in a small town in the Midwest. People keep to themselves and it is quite rare to have any spats with locals. The only instances of confrontation that come to my mind are people not from my county or state. I should also note there is a university not far from my land, so it is also not uncommon to see non-locals. Generally, they keep to themselves and stay clear of the locals, that is until two a-holes from the university came to visit. I would describe myself as an outdoors man. I love to fish, hunt, camp, hike, etc. So it follows I do some of these activities on my land. I have a few ponds and forests which I conduct a lot of hunting on, mostly waterfowl and deer. I have a permanent duck blind on one pond and a deer stand adjacent to my forest, both somewhat visible from the road. There is heaps of farmland around my area, not much public land to recreate with. Naturally, people will go to many lengths to recreate recreate on my land either legally or illegally. It was late September/early October and I was out scouting for waterfowl on one of my ponds. When I came up to the property, I noticed a Subaru Outback pulled off the side of the road onto my land. If I had recognized the vehicle, it would not have raised alarm, but I did not, and the Outback had California plates. I stepped out of my vehicle to investigate. It was vacant, and then I smelled it. Smoke. Something was burning and it was coming from my forest. I grabbed a shovel and ran towards it. When I got to my forest, I could hear some crappy music playing, and there I saw the two a-holes. They had pitched a tent and had a campfire roaring. I was left speechless. How could these guys have the gall to trespass? Anyway, I approached them and none of them noticed. I turned off their music and they all looked at me in disbelief. There was silence and then the a-holes spoke. A-hole number 1,
"Hey man, why did you do that? You really killed our vibe."
A-hole number 2,
"Yeah dude, get lost."
me, "Hello, please vacate as soon as possible." A-hole number 1,
"Why?"
me, "This is private land. You need permission from the landowner to be here." A-hole number 2,
"Can we have permission?"
me, "No." A-hole number 2,
"Why?"
"I used this land for hunting. Now F off."
"You're a murderer, killing defenseless animals."
Me, "I really don't give a damn, but now vacate before I have your Subaru towed." This must have gotten through their stoned minds as they packed up and I escorted them off my land. Before they left, a-hole number 1 remarks,
"We will return and we will stop your senseless killings."
I laughed, told them good day and assessed the damage they had done. The a-holes cut down several trees. Why did they not use dead ones? I have no idea. Found empty beer cans and a single roach on a tree stump. I detest drug use. The roach really pissed me off. And what they had said earlier about coming back and off-roading sparked an idea in my brain. I knew what area he was referring to. My buds and I have off-roaded there before. So I prepared the area for the a-hole. I wanted to plant native prairie grass where we off-roaded, so I staked about 200 meters of barbed wire where I intended to plant the grass at a later time. I pretty much left it at that, and the next few weeks were uneventful. It was late October and I was in my duck blind one afternoon, shot my limit of pheasants in the morning, so I figured I would try to pick off a few ducks with some buds. A flock of geese landed in our decoys, but we did not shoot them. We watched them for a bit and then we heard loud music from an oncoming car. It was the a-holes. I watched as they drove through my land and headed for the off-roading area. I informed my buddies of my prairie grass project and we all began laughing when they entered the barbed wire area. It should also be noted their music scared the geese away. A minute or so passed and we could not hear their engine running. We left the blind to investigate. What we came up on was a thing of beauty. Most if not all of the barbed wire was gone, mangled in the Subaru axles. A-hole 1 is freaking out and a-hole 2 is assessing the damage. When we came up on them, a-hole number 1 started yelling at me, saying he would sue me for damaging his vehicle. I laughed and told him to get off my land before I call law enforcement. He laughed and said I should. I did too, to be exact. I called our local conservation officer and the sheriff. I told the sheriff I had trespassers that refused to leave. I told the CO I had non-hunters harassing hunters and wild game. He got a hard-on after hearing that and told me he would be there within the hour. 10 minutes passed and the sheriff shows up. I let the a-holes explain themselves. They said I had given them permission and I destroyed their car. The sheriff looks at them, then asks me, do they have permission? I said no and that I suspect they are under the influence of something, as no logical person would drive through barbed wire. The sheriff asked why I thought that. I said last time they trespassed they left empties and a roach. His eyes gleamed and he told the two a-holes to empty their pockets and that he would search the car. What happened next was hilarious. There was nothing in their car. A-hole 1 had nothing in his pockets, but a-hole 2 started crying. He had pot on him, so in addition to trespassing, a-hole 2 was cited for possessing illegal drugs. The sheriff then told the two they had to figure out how to get their vehicle off my land. He offered to give them both a ride back to the university so they could sort it out. Then the CO arrives at the perfect time. I told him they had trespassed and in doing so harassed hunters, and hunter harassment laws are open to interpretation in my state, but given the situation the CO issued both of them 3 tickets for harassing hunters. That's a misdemeanor and over 5k in fines. I also mentioned they cut down trees on my land. A-hole 2 says that was not me, that was A-hole 1. So A-hole 1 is charged with destroying property. We are laughing our asses off as the sheriff takes them away. I didn't hear from the a-holes for a few days and then I got a letter in the mail. It was from a-hole 1, he was asking for written permission to retrieve his vehicle from my land. He gave me his number to contact him so we could sort it out. The call went something like this. A-hole 1.
Hello?
Me? I read you want permission to retrieve your vehicle from my land? A-hole 1.
Yes.
Me? Permission denied. You can have someone on your behalf retrieve it for you.
What?
There is a towing service you can call. You are not to set foot on my land.
A few, man.
Have a nice day. The next day I get a call from the towing service asking if they can go back and retrieve the Subaru. I say yes, but that a-hole 1 cannot set foot on my land. He agrees and I take him to where the mangled Subaru is. It took about 2 hours for him to pull the Subaru out from its barbed wire bed. This made a-hole 1 quite mad. He told the driver to hurry up, which pissed him off. When he got the Subaru to the road, a-hole 1 started cussing him out. The driver told him, "You know what? I won't charge you for this." He detached the Subaru and left it on the road and drove off. At this point I am laughing like a madman and told a-hole 1 to have a nice day. His car turned on but would not budge. He was getting really flustered and had a meltdown. He called a-hole 2 to pick him up. I stayed there to make sure they didn't do anything else. As he was leaving, a-hole 1 spat on my car. They left the Subaru on the road. When they were gone, I called law enforcement one last time and said someone was illegally parked on a road. I gave them the location and an hour later they were towing the Subaru away. I never heard from the a-holes again. Don't F with a man's land. And the next story, so this one may take a while, I am sorry about this. I am/was in the Navy and on my first ship I had a small group of friends. We were very close and spent most of our time together. In the military you have to build up time to take off and 2 of my friends decided to take a trip to Ohio for some reason. They went through the process of requesting the time off and got it approved. They were in the process of booking a flight when another one of our shipmates, sailors, overheard them talking about booking flights. He told them he was taking that leave as well and was heading somewhere and could drop them off. It was on his way. Fast forward to the day of leave, my friends are packed up ready to go and the other sailor said he was ready to go and would meet them on the pier to take them to Ohio. I hung out with them on the pier since we were close and I was off, but was leaving that day. 2 hours passed and they received a phone call that he was running a little late and would be there in an hour. 5 hours later my friend said screw it and booked flights. Cost them around $300–400 and being E3s that was a lot of money. Scumbag finally met up with them and gave them a lengthy excuse on why he left them on the pier and it was bullcrap to say the least. My friends were annoyed and even though he didn't actually do anything wrong, he still screwed them over. I slept on the rack underneath the now scumbag and already didn't like him. He wasn't very reliable and smelled kind of bad, which was a common occurrence when you lived in close quarters, but it could give people a negative stigma about you. One day out to sea, I got tired of his smell and was still pretty perturbed about what he did to my friends, so I decided to switch his sock out with one of mine. Only my sock was not used for my feet, it was used for my alone time. I waited until he fell asleep and took his shoe and then shook his old sock out. He reused his socks. I slid my 3-day used crusty sock into his shoe and set my alarm for when he got up. He then woke up, used the bathroom and got ready for watch. He took his shoe down, pulled the sock out, noticed something was weird, peeled the sock open and brought it to his mouth, nose to smell. It literally touched his lips and then put the sock on and went to stand his 12-hour watch. I waited a long time to tell my friends as I didn't want anyone finding that out, but once that guy went UA, unauthorized absence, and never returned, I told my friends and they were pretty happy with my decision. The next one was posted by user Mont49. When I was 10, my neighbor, an 80-something-year-old man with a Christian radio station, shot and killed one of my dogs. When I went looking for my dog, I asked my neighbor if he had seen him. He told me that he shot a dog like that this morning. Frozen, I asked where he was so I could bury him. The old man told me that his body was in the dumpster and that he would shoot me too if I did not get off his land. I ran through the woods back to my house, screaming out loud in anger and punching trees until my knuckles were torn and bloody. When I got home, I called the police and the K9 unit came out to my house. He retrieved my dog's body and I buried him. The worst part was that my dog was very sweet. I know that generally sweet dogs can be threatening, but it was very against his nature. My neighbor had tied him up and broken all of his legs and then shot him point blank in the chest with a shotgun. I have never felt more rage in my life. My mom took the man to court and he was charged with animal cruelty, and the judge asked how much money I thought the dog was worth. I was dumbfounded and croaked out that I did not want money, I wanted my dog. The neighbor was fined $500 and I made him pay it to the local humane society. The man had the 10 commandments posted all around his house, so the next night I took a red Sharpie and circled "Thou shalt not kill" on all of his signs. I doubt anyone will see this comment, but damn, writing it was kind of therapeutic. My dog's name was Hershey. He was a mutt that was born in my bedroom. He was only 2 years old and such a good boy. Thanks, Reddit. The next one was posted by user Anamare. My a-hole of a next door neighbor would leave her pit bulls out in the garden all day every day with no food or water and regardless of the weather. It would be a storm and she would leave them both outside in the rain crying. It would be a heat wave and she would leave them outside with no shade. Once I picked up on it, I began to knock on her door and ask her to bring the dogs in because leaving them outside was obviously neglect. She would tell me to mind my own business, but she would yell at her kids to bring the dogs inside. Once I noticed that she did not learn her lesson, I contacted the RSCPA, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, over and over until they sent out a letter to her. She had the effing nerve to act like she had no idea why this company was contacting her. She came up to me in the street and was like,
"Can you believe I got this letter saying I effing abuse my dogs?"
So I kept contacting them because despite knowing that the RSPCA were watching her, she still did not change her behavior. She honestly did not care about those poor dogs. They would jump at my fence whenever I was in the garden, practically begging. My sister would jump the fence to give them bowls of water and feed them dog biscuits whenever she was not home. One day she was yelling and her kids were crying, so I went to see what was going on. And it turns out that the RSPCA were removing the dogs from her because of the neglect. Took a few months, but I was so happy to see them going to a better home. And Ripe Stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more Ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.